just 55 days left until the congressional elections, new polling tonight indicates that the situation is much, much worse than anyone thought for the president of the United States and the Republican Party. One Republican strategist told the Washington Post that the Republican congressional campaign is now a shipwreck. It's a shipwreck now. And Republicans are not only on their way to losing the House of Representatives, but they are now panicking that they could lose the United States Senate. That means it is all up for grabs now, the whole thing, the whole Congress. If the Democrats get the House and they get the Senate, that means the Trump presidency will effectively be ended. Not one Republican piece of legislation would make it to the president's desk again, and the Democrats in the Senate could stop all Trump nominations for every office from even coming to a vote, including a nomination for Attorney General to replace Jeff Sessions or possibly another nomination to the Supreme Court. Donald Trump, of course, could not care less about being able to sign a Republican infrastructure bill, which they would never get passed anyway, or any other piece of legislation. But Donald Trump does care desperately about the possibility that he would be impeached by a Democratic House of Representatives and then face an impeachment trial in a Democratic-controlled Senate. New polling on impeachment is turning against the president. At the beginning of the summer in June, 42% said President Trump should be impeached and removed from office, and 51% said that he should not. And now, in that very same poll, 47% say that President Trump should be impeached and removed from office, and 48% think that he should not. Those numbers are going in the wrong direction for the president. The latest impeachment polls come after an anonymous op-ed piece from inside the Trump administration says that there is a resistance to Donald Trump within the Trump administration, an anonymous team of Trump administration officials who are resistors, who work against the president's wishes to prevent his most dangerous impulses from turning into action. The new impeachment polling comes after the arrival of Bob Woodward's stunning new book on the Trump presidency called Fear, a title that captures most Americans' feeling about the Trump presidency, according to the new polls. 47% of the country is ready to impeach and remove Donald Trump from office right now. And they have not heard one word yet about Donald Trump from Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller. Imagine what will happen to that number when the country does know everything that Robert Mueller knows. What are the chances of that 47% going down? President Trump doesn't think it will go down, and new reporting indicates he is in full panic over the prospect of being impeached by a Democratic House and now possibly tried by a Democratic Senate. Axios reports tonight, a few months ago, he was scoffing at midterm consequences for him, but now Trump has heard the dire warnings from enough advisors that he's shifting into salvation mode, sharpening his campaign rhetoric and privately contemplating life under subpoena and the threat and reality of impeachment. Here's Donald Trump back in May talking about the upcoming congressional election.
So your vote in 2018 is every bit as important as your vote in 2016. Although I'm not sure I really believe that, but you know. I don't know who the hell wrote that line. I'm not sure.
The line was written, of course, by the people who fill his teleprompter with words like that, which he is always discovering for the first time when he reads the teleprompter. And here is the same person last week.
They'll say, we want to impeach him, and you'll impeach him. It's so ridiculous. But don't worry about that if it ever happens. But if it does happen, it's your fault because you didn't go out to vote. Okay? You didn't go out to vote. I'll be the only president in history. They'll say, what a job he's done. By the way, we're impeaching him.
Sounds like he gets it now. Now Donald Trump knows it's real. Now the Republican strategists who are saying that the Republican campaign is a shipwreck have finally gotten through to Donald Trump, because the polls are delivering a message that even Donald Trump cannot ignore. Today's Quinnipiac poll shows that if the election were held today, 52% would vote for a Democratic congressional candidate and 38% would vote for a Republican. A Marist poll today shows similar results, 50% saying they would vote for a Democrat, 38% saying they would vote for a Republican. The biggest polling reversal for Republicans is in the Midwest, where the Trump tariffs have done more damage to the agricultural sector of the economy than any other. The Marist poll shows in July Democrats and Republicans were statistically tied in the Midwest, and now the Midwest favors Democratic candidates by 51% to 37%. Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell can no longer pretend that he's confident Republicans will hold on to the Senate. Here's what he said yesterday about these suddenly close Senate races that Republicans were supposed to win, like Texas, where Ted Cruz is now running scared against Democrat Beto O'Rourke.
All of them too close to call, and every one of them like a knife fight in an alley. I mean, just a brawl in every one of those places. I hope when the smoke clears that we'll still have a majority in the Senate.
There's a historical perspective that I, for one, always go back to when I look at congressional election polling and what looks like a wave. And it's the 1994 congressional election, 2 years into Bill Clinton's presidency. I was working in the United States Senate then on the Democratic side, and so I had a strong professional interest in the outcome. We had 57 Democrats in the Senate going into that election, and we thought we might lose a couple or maybe even pick up a couple of Democratic seats. No big deal, no big change. The House of Representatives had actually been under Democratic control for my entire life at that point. There was no possibility of losing the House of Representatives, and there wasn't a single pundit in Washington who ever predicted that the Democrats were ever going to lose the House of Representatives. And at 2 p.m. on that election day in 1994, I got a call from Sheila Burke, who was then known as the 101st Senator because she was Bob Dole's very powerful chief of staff. And Sheila Burke told me that Bob Dole was going to be the next majority leader of the United States Senate because their exit polling was telling them that the Republicans were going to win the Senate and win the House of Representatives for the first time in 40 years. And that right there on Election Day was the very first clue that I had that the Democrats were in trouble when it was way, way, way too late, right in the middle of Election Day. There wasn't a single campaign strategist in Washington being quoted in the Washington Post in those days saying that the Democrats were shipwrecked, that they were going to lose everything. No one saw it coming. And the congressional polling showed that the two parties were basically tied with the voters. And so after watching the Democrats get shipwrecked in 1994 by a wave that no one saw coming, when you look at this polling that already looks like a shipwreck for Republicans, one thing to keep in mind is that the polling could be wrong. And it could be wrong, meaning the Republicans might not do so badly. But the other thing to keep in mind is that the polling could easily be wrong in another way. It could be underestimating just how shipwrecked the Republicans are going to be on election night.